and welcome to the first episode of the Above the Rest podcast, a podcast all about the 10th Force Support Squadron at the United States Air Force Academy. I'm your host, Taylor Burnfield, and for this first episode, I had the privilege of interviewing First Class Cadet Connor Brezenski, who has gained notoriety on social media for his photography. Connor is a photographer for the Cadet Yearbook, which falls under the Support Squadron. I had a great conversation with Connor the day after the Class of 2024 graduation ceremony. Thank you for listening and hope you enjoy the show. Thank you, Connor, for joining us today. So could you talk a little bit about how you got involved with taking photos of the Academy and with the Cadet Yearbook?
Yeah, so it pretty much started out freshman year when I was, brand new to the Academy, and we had a football game that day, and all the cadets were supposed to be in the stands, but I noticed a couple of cadets were down on the field taking photos, and I wondered, that sounds really cool to be able to take photos of our Academy experience. How can I do that? And so the next day I went down to the yearbook office and said, hey, I'm interested in photography. What can I do to get involved? And pretty much they gave me a camera and they've kind of, walked me through everything on how to be a photographer and where I am today.
And did you have an interest in photography before working with Cadet Yearbook, or did Cadet Yearbook spark that interest in you?
It was more of like it ignited that spark. I had a little bit, in high school where it was just pretty much with the cell phone, like, how can I take the best photo on my phone? But I didn't ultimately get invested in any sort of camera equipment or really trying to teach myself all about photography until I came here and joined Yearbook, where I learned, all the different kinds of things that is necessary to get a good photo.
Mm-hmm. And so you've seen pretty much everything at the Academy, and you've photographed a lot of the events here. Is there a particular event that's your favorite to photograph?
I don't know. I feel like all of them are special in their own way. If I had to choose one, it's probably job drops. The reason why I really like photographing job drops is simply because each squadron has their own unique way of how they're going to deliver their jobs to their seniors. I remember my freshman year, we did, all the freshmen basically took all the jobs the seniors were going to get. Obviously, the seniors don't know, and then we would put them inside little paratroopers and then drop them off the terrazzo, and seniors would have to catch them, and then they would open up their job. And, it's really exciting to see all the emotion because, that's kind of like everything that you're working for as a cadet. You're trying to get to the ultimate goal of getting the job you want. And that also determines, what are you doing for the next 5, 10, or 15 years. So it's a really high stakes moment for a lot of cadets, and it's really emotional, and it's really cool to see how the squadrons basically tackle and, how do they deliver their jobs. Like I've seen them do cahoots. I've seen them do, where they pretty much slap the job in the back of freshmen and the seniors have to chase after them. So it's really exciting, super dynamic, and ultimately like a really great time. But honestly, like I really like photographing most of the events at the Academy because again, this place is so unique and we have so many unique moments that, we're always wanting photographs of.
And you photographed the recent graduation. Could you talk a little bit about what that experience was like?
Yeah, so graduation is super exciting. This is my second year doing it, and my first time being able to go down to the stadium floor and shoot the iconic Thunderbirds hat toss. For me, it's definitely a very, emotional moment because especially this year, I knew a lot of the cadets that were graduating, whether it be through, classmates, friends, or mentors. And for me, being able to see them, walk that stage, get that diploma, and pretty much finish out their, career as a cadet is a really, special moment to be able to photograph. And then finally, I think, the big iconic shot there is that Thunderbirds hat toss shot. And I think that's kind of when you think of USAFA or the Academy in general, that's kind of the shot you think of. So it was really exciting to, for me to have the opportunity to get down there and take that photo and tell it from my perspective. So I really enjoy graduation, but this will be my last one since I'll be in the seats next year.
Yeah, because you're at the class of 2025. Could you talk about what have you been studying at the Academy? And what your plans are after graduation?
Yeah, so I'm currently a military and strategic studies major with a informal concentration in computer science. So that's really looking at, how do we fight wars and how can we better ourselves as war fighters in a lot of ways through operational planning, strategic level planning, and tactics, techniques, and procedures. So very, very, very military oriented and very applicable to a lot of our jobs in the future. And I'm really looking forward to either being an intelligence officer or a OSI agent in the Air Force. But again, I won't know until our job drop, which is slated to be in September.
Do you see yourself continuing photography in your career even after you graduate?
Yeah, I definitely do. There's one thing the Academy has taught me, like there is a possibility for you to do like both your passion and also, serve your country in a lot of ways. Like as a cadet, I have a lot of competing priorities, whether it be like athletics, military performance, or academics. But I do try to, carve out some time to, focus on my passion, which is definitely photography, and incorporate that into my cadet career. So I definitely will look to fuse that in some way, or even if I'm out of the Air Force, find some way to bring it back into my life. So it'll definitely be a part of my life. Just may not be my primary job.
Something that I really enjoy about your social media is that you show the academy as a cadet. You show the cadet experience. Do you think that's why you've been so successful on social media? Is that you're offering a different perspective than what maybe PA would offer?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I remember when I was, looking at the academy, I really looked for, social media pages or YouTube videos from cadets that kind of told a different story. Because obviously PA has their own mission, right? And of course they're trying to include cadets too, but it's, it is different when you hear it straight from the horse's mouth, right? Hearing it from a cadet on how they view the academy. So I think that was kind of my inspiration. That's kind of why I've drawn, a little bit bigger of an audience now these days, is that I'm telling it from the cadet perspective. How does a cadet perceive this event, and capturing all those emotions, right, that a cadet would feel. And that, I think my big advantage there is that I know what those emotions are going to be because I've been in that seat before.
And you've photographed pretty much every major event at the Academy. Is there anything you haven't photographed yet that you'd like to photograph, either within the Academy or just the military in general?
I think after yesterday, I have photographed every single event at USAFA. I've covered everything from graduation, BCT, Space Force patch wearing ceremonies, and pretty much any major event that happens in the Academy, I'm usually there for it. So, but military-wise, I've definitely seen a lot of photographers in the larger Air Force that have been able to have the opportunity to, ride on a C-17 or C-130, get on that ramp and be able to take photos of, some of our, incredible inventory or Air Force inventory, whether it be, F-22 Raptors, F-35s, and be able to showcase them in their environment. And I think that would be a really unique opportunity. I would love to do that in the future.
And you also do portraits.
Yeah, so I definitely do a lot of senior portraits with cadets. I think for a lot of us, we realized that we would really like, photos that, are going to best, help us remember our time here. And a lot of that, is going and taking those photos at our iconic USAFA locations, whether it be in the Air Gardens or surrounded by all the plane statues and the honor court next to Polaris Hall. And so I sort of developed, pretty much, the opportunity to, give to other cadets and say, hey, I'm more willing to do senior photos and help them, remember that special moment. Because again, like the Academy is a very special experience. And I know for a lot of us, we definitely want photos to remember that from. So I definitely do a lot of portraits of seniors and families too who come here to kind of remember, this unique experience.
Where can cadets find you or parents find you on social media?
Yeah, so it's just academy.shoots for both Instagram and Facebook. And then I also have a website that kind of highlights, the best of my best work at academyshoots.com. And again, the naming was just pretty much how do I incorporate, this idea of photography, but also about the Academy, but it's kind of separated from my overall name because again, my big focus is telling the cadet story, not necessarily about myself, right? But yeah, that's where you can find me: Instagram, Facebook, and my website.
Well, thank you, Connor. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I wish you the best of luck and good luck with the rest of the summer and the rest of your senior year.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you again for listening, and be sure to stay up to date on everything happening at the Support Squadron on our website, USAFAsupport.com, and our various social media profiles on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.